Might as well just. All right, so kind of similar to what we were talking about yesterday, right? If they have a polynomial and they tell you that something is a factor, right? So the factor would be something like this, something in the parentheses. If that's a factor, then you should get a remainder of 0. Well, actually, it says you should evaluate it and get a result of 0, but it also means the same thing. You get the same, the result you would get from evaluating it, and the remainder would be the same number. That's what we did yesterday. So let's go ahead and just see what we can do with these here. Use the factor theorem to determine which binomials of these factors are given factors of the function. Check all that apply. So which of these are factors? So 3, oh yeah, check your powers, 3, 2, and we're missing a 2 power. So we're gonna make, when we fill in the coefficients, we're gonna have to make sure that we gotta skip that, right? So 3, 2, there's nothing there. 1, 0. So we should have 4 terms. I'm gonna write it kind of squished because on mine I have to be able to do 3 of these problems stacked up on each other. Yeah, I guess I don't really need to stack them up. There should be enough room, but that's the way the book does it. So that's the way I'm gonna do it. All right, let's go ahead and start dividing. So bring down the 1, times that by the number in the window. Combine these, 0 minus 1 is -1, and then times that by the number in the window, so that'd be 1, and we'd get 30, right? And then 30 times -1. But hold on a minute, something's not right here, right? Because we should get -30 and we should get 0, right? That's what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be getting zeros. No, okay. Now this one's a bit of a bamboozle because actually, well, I purposefully forgot to put the negative on there because sometimes you want there, deep down in your heart, you want there to be no remainder. But if we have a negative times a negative, then that one's going to be a no. Okay, so be careful. Some of these look like they should work, but they don't work. Okay, and that's just a life lesson. Some things look like they're going to work, but they just don't work out that much. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to the next one here. I'm going to go ahead and put the 5 here. And remember, when you take it out, it's going to be opposite. All right, so I'm going to put 5 here. And since it did not work, I'm going to go ahead and put the original ones here like that. And then gonna just divide. So bring down the 1, times that by the number in the window. Combine 5 times 5 is 25. Now 25 minus 31, we're minusing a bigger number, so that's going to be a negative result. 5 times -6 would be -30, so that's going to be 0. So yeah, this one is a factor. All right. Now, if it's a factor, well, it's like a quick. Okay, I've used this example before, right? If you have 3 times 4 is 12. These are factors. 3 and 4 are factors. This is our product. 12 is our product. But you could also pick something else. You could pick like 2, right? So if we use 2, is 2 a factor? Yeah, because you can divide 12 by 2 and you won't get any remainder. So that would be also a factor. So using that same idea, I'm going to take this here, 1, 5, and -6, and we're going to divide that by our next number in line, which in this case, again, when you take it out, when we take out 6, it will be -6. And now we have a smaller problem with smaller numbers to deal with. Less numbers should go by a little bit quicker, right? Because we just got to bring this down, multiply it by the number in the window. 5 minus 6 is -1. 6 times 1, because we ignore the negative, and that should cause there to be no remainder, which in this case here would also mean that this is, yes, also a factor. So check all that apply. So if there's 2 of them, we're going to check 2 of them. All right, there you go. Okay. All right, next one, same thing, pretty much the same problem. Do a quick power check. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we should be able to just put these numbers in here. And we're good, right? That's how it's set up. Yeah, don't forget the zero. The zero, because there should be a regular number here, or constant value, but there is none. So yeah, we're gonna have to make this a little bit longer and include zero in that there, because it's not gonna work out if we don't have the zero. We gotta have all the terms. Okay, now let's go ahead and start dividing. So just gonna kind of do our usual thing, right? Nothing unusual. Same thing we've been working on for, I don't know, a month now. So let's see, 225, that'd be 50, and that would be 28, and then 28 times 2. If you need your calculator, bring that out. So that should be 56 minus 56. So that it would be no remainder because we're going to multiply that by the number in the window, and we should have no more remainder. All right, so that one is a factor. And again, if it's a factor, you don't have to go back to the original every single time. You can go back to the last one you had. So this is the result, because again, this divides, just like I was saying, 4 and 3 are factors of 12, but so is 2, right? You can break them down sometimes into smaller parts. So in this case here, let's try 7. But remember, when you take it out, be careful because it's a little bit different than yesterday. When it's already solved, you don't need to reverse it. In this case here, if it's a factor, then you will need to reverse it. So anytime you see a minus in a formula, that means that it's going to be the opposite, just like the H and K formula we had, right? One of them is opposite. Let's go ahead and take these numbers here because now we have the smaller numbers, right? So I'm going to take them, just the exact numbers we had above it, the exact numbers. And let's go ahead and divide this out and let's see what we get. So let's go ahead and try with -7. So bring down the first number, times it by -7, and we're going to put that in the next column. Combine -4, -7, we get -11. We get kind of a big number. Okay, then let's see. Hopefully, we got to remember, sometimes you just get big numbers when you work with these. So in this case here, we get 52 times 7. Well, actually, it'd be -7, but again, my calculator here does not like dealing with negatives. So this would actually be -34 plus 28, but I'm going to reverse it, and I'm just going to remember that that's actually supposed to be a negative number. 336 times 7, and that should be a negative number, -2352. Is it positive? Oh, yeah, you is correct. 2352. Was that the right one? Well, I guess it really wouldn't matter because as long as it's anything other than 0, it's going to be a no, not a factor. So this one here be yes, and that one's a no. But yeah, if it's anything other than 0, I'm kind of like, doesn't matter what it is. It could be off by a little bit. It could have been positive, could have been negative. But if it's not 0, then it's not a factor. So sorry, not yet. It's my own brain taking a little bit of a shortcut there. Let's go ahead and do this number here. Put in -4. And this one did not work. The last one did not work. So I'm going to go back to the result of this one here. So this whole row here, we're going to go back to this one. And you could use either one. Either one's fine. They're both the same thing. 1, -4, -25, +28, and 0. And I'm going to kind of squish that in here. Hopefully everything's in frame. Okay. Just go ahead and divide 1 times -4. And that would be -8 because you're combining two negatives. Negative times negative is positive. 32 minus 25. Oopsie, forgot the minus. And that'd be 7. And 7 times -4 would be -28. So that would be 0, which is good because, again, we're trying to look for zeros. Because 0 times -4 would be 0. And that would make our last column a 0 plus 0, which would in this case mean Yes, it is a factor, so we can take out this x plus 4 is a factor if we need to. If we really wanted to, we could keep going and keep finding more and more that we can take out, which is actually what we're going to do today. So once we got some of them taken out, we're going to go ahead and take even more of them out. So, oh, sorry, did everyone get this one? All right, I think we're all good. I'm going to go ahead and move on then. All right. So let's see, use the factor theorem, which is what we just got done doing, given the binomial. So again, if it says given, that means there should be no remainder. Because again, it's like somebody giving you a car key and say, hey, can you get my bag out of the car? Or I don't know, turn my air conditioner on. Right? It should work. If it doesn't work, then something, well, we probably did something wrong, like find the wrong car. All right, so let's go ahead and keep factoring the polynomial. So let's go ahead and take our number that we're dividing with. Now, again, if you take it out or put it into a parenthesis, it's going to be the opposite. So in this case here, when we take it out, it's going to be -3. Oh yeah, check your powers, 3, 2, 1, 0. Because we already had some of them that were missing numbers, right? Because if they're missing a term, we're going to have to fill it in with a 0. Okay, now nothing left to do but just start dividing. So bring down the 1, times that by the number in the window, 3 minus 3. All that would be 0 in this case here, times that by the number in the window, which would be 0. And that would leave us with -4. Negative times negative is positive. 3 times 4 is 12. And there you go. So again, that's usually a good thing when you get a remainder of 0, because you don't want a remainder of 0, because again, that tells you that it's kind of wrong. All right, so let's go ahead and put the zeros back on. So remember, we divided by 3, which is why we've got smaller numbers, but we also divided by x, which means these are also going to go down. It went down from a 3 power. Now it's a 2 power. So 2, this should be a 1 power, and this is a 0 power, meaning it's a lone number. It doesn't have any x's. Now, I usually put it here just kind of as like kind of looking at it and think, okay, what can we do next with this number? Because we're gonna have to be pulling out some tricks. Some of the tricks we're gonna be doing are gonna be numbers like well, things like factoring, and you'll see some of them. We'll have all different kinds of factoring. We'll have, in this case here, well, let's just get to the next step. Darn it. I was gonna do something. Kind of wrong to see what was going on, right? Because we got a difference in squares. And I did this with my last classes. I just forgot to do it with this class because I got my habit down really, really good. So now I'm not forgetting things as much anymore. But if I said these were the answers, okay, so there is something missing. Like I said, I tried to make a mistake on purpose. But what's missing? Now, if you remember a while back, I kept telling everybody, some students will forget this if they don't show this, they're going to forget this part here. So what I did, and I tried to do this on purpose, and I left it in there a little bit. So what we actually forgot was the original. So put the original back in there, and that should include it, because I always tell people do a power check. So power check here. We should have 3 power, which means 3 factors and 3 solutions. So a lot of people, maybe not a lot, like a handful. Yeah, I'm not picking on anybody, but if it's you out there making these errors, then be sure to correct those. But there you go. So now we got our 3 solutions, because again, that it should match your highest degree of your polynomial. Another thing that can also happen too is gaining extra solutions. So we want the right number of solutions. All right, there you go. So that one wasn't too bad. Kind of a little bit quick and a little bit easy. But we're going to start turning up the difficulty on some of these. So let's go ahead and move over to the next one. And let's start off with our number that we're dividing. Same directions, nothing different. 3, 2, 1, 0. So nothing's missing. I should be able to just grab these numbers there without the x values. And let's go ahead and divide this. So 1, bring it down. 1 times 5. 5 minus 2, which would be 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 minus 19 is -4. -4 times 5 is -20. And again, good, no remainder. Should mean that we got this pretty much set. Okay, and let's put the x's back on. And I like to do it here. So first one here, it was a 3 power, but we're taking 1 off. So we're going to end up with a 2 power. And we kind of end up with an easy one, kind of an easy thing to factor. And it doesn't really matter which order you put them in, as long as you put them in the order in the last step. So I'm going to take the number that we have here, our trinomial, and we're going to put our own group right here. So don't forget the original. Like I said, I tried to forget the original on the last one on purpose, but I ended up remembering it because if you got good habits and you do the same thing, same steps, make sure you're checking all of these things as you go along, then you shouldn't have any mistakes. All right, so let's go ahead and factor this. I'm just going to use our plain old life method. And I'm going to put the x minus 5 here, just so that way, 1, we're not forgetting it, and 2, I want to focus on the factoring. So again, we've been factoring since like September. So we've been doing this a long, long time. I kept telling you guys, make sure you nail this down because we're going to be using it most of the semester. All right, so life method, last number. So we have -4 as our last number. And remember, the sign does matter because the only way to multiply 2 numbers and get a negative is if one of them is negative. Well, if you have 2 negatives and you multiply 2 negatives together, you're still going to get a positive. So let's go ahead and break this apart. So I need to think of 2 numbers that multiply to 4, but if I subtract 1 from the other, I get 3. What numbers could they be? This one should be an easy one. Dang. Okay, 4 and 1, right? Because 4 minus 1 is 3. 4 times -1 is -4. So that's our outside inside part here. They got to add up to the middle number. And then first number, if it's no a value, we just split it. Just split that x. So we got 2 x's. So 1 in here, 1 in there. And there you go. Check your powers really quick. 3 power, 3 factors, and we should have 3 solutions. All right, and remember, when you take them out, they're going to be opposite. So opposite is going to be this first one here. So that's going to be -4. And this is going to become a positive. So it shows negative, but it's going to be positive. And -5 becomes +5. So there we go. Those are the 3 solutions that we have for this one. So again, it's not all that different. If you remember that one, we did a homework just before break, a lesson, I should say, where you did something like this, but it was long division. And then once you got the long division, you would kind of keep going. So again, not really anything new, not anything really big in the way it's being different. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I think everyone's done. All right, and set this one up. So we got 7 here. Remember, it's opposite. 3, 2, 1, 0. So they're all there. Okay. All right. That's the setup. Let's go ahead and get our numbers. So bring this one down, get our dividing. 14 minus 7 would be 7. So 7 times 7 is 49. And this one you should probably be able to count up to it, right? 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. So that's going to be 4. -4, because our number we're subtracting is bigger. 4 times negative, wait, -4 times 7. So I got to go a little bit backwards going this way. And 28 minus 28, good. We got no remainder, so that means we're on the right track. All right, now let's go ahead and put the x's back on. And I like to do it here. This way it kind of tells me what the next step would be. So we had a difference in squares, factoring. Now it looks like we're going to have an AC method of factoring. All right, so we got AC method. So what that means is that we are going to have to, oopsie, sorry, I forgot the 2 there. Oh, no, 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 I meant to do that. I just got done saying it's an AC method, so we're going to multiply this times that. Sorry, almost made a rookie mistake there. So 2 times -4, and that's going to change our last number to -8. Now remember, whenever you times using AC method, you got to take it back. You got to take that AC back out. So I'm going to go ahead and factor this. I'm just going to use life method again from here. So 2 numbers that multiply to -8. So again, negative number means that one is a positive, one is a negative. And that also tells me that one of them is going to subtract to get 7. So what 2 numbers multiply to 8, but if I subtract one from the other of those same numbers, I get 7. All right, I think someone said it. Oh, 8 and 1. Well, hold on. Yeah, it is 8 and 1, but I'm going to make it a little bit smaller here. Because remember what I said, you got to take that number back. So since we times it by 2, we got to kind of put that 2 back in. Okay. And it looks like we got all of it split. So again, we should have 3 factors because this is a 3-power polynomial, 3-degree. And there you go. And it looks like we should have 3 solutions. We just got to put them in order from least to greatest now. And again, look for the ones with the opposite sign. So if we're looking for negative numbers, we're actually going to have to look at the positive ones first. So 8/2 is going to be 4. So our first number is going to be 4. I'm sorry, -4. I just got done saying it's going to be opposite. And then we have what would be 1/2 and 7. So we just got to think, okay, which one would go next? Which 1/2 is definitely less than 7. So we're going to put that one in next. And it looks like we are done with another one. We don't have a whole lot more to go. What am I doing on time? I think we're doing pretty good. All right, I got to make sure I start right on time and everything else. Okay, what this? Okay. All right, moving on to the next one. Four, three, two, 1, 0. All right, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, there you go. That's the setup. Bring down the 9 because it's not combining with anything. 9 times -2 would be -18, so that'd be -36. Negative times negative would be positive. 36 times 2 is 72. Minus 73, so that'd be -1. Negative times negative is positive, so that'd be a 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Take that and multiply it by -2, and you get -8, which again gets us a 0. So that's a little bit of a relief because we did that part right. But again, as long as you got your synthetic division down, there should be no issue. All right, and now let's put the x's back on because that'll help us tell what our next step might be. So we started out with a 4 power, so we're going to reduce it by 1. Now, what kind of factoring could we use in this case here? All right, remember, it's got 4 terms. So yeah, we're gonna have to remember all of our factorings. I know it's been a while. And I mean, we've been using them a lot, but this is going to be factor by grouping. If you got 4 terms, got to factor them by grouping. So group them 2 by 2. Well, you don't want a minus in the middle. I've had some students already ask me, and again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not saying any names, but they'll run into problems like this, and they'll be like, oh, but I can't use factor by grouping because the minus isn't in the right place. But again, just remember, you can't have the minus in the middle. So I'm going to group it with the second group and cram this little plus sign in there. Now, if I was thinking ahead, I could have wrote it with a little bit more space in there, but oh well. Okay, so that should help us. Now, you don't really need to write this next spot here because I'm going to put it over here too. But we're going to take out what we can from each group. So both of these numbers divide by 9. So I'm going to take out a 9. Take out 2 x's from both of them. And then just kind of put in what is left. All right, and one of the things you got to make sure that work with factor by grouping is that you should be able to make this group and the second group look the same. But right now, they're not the same. They are opposite sign. So negative x, positive x, right? -4, +4. So that helps us because now we can take out a factor of -1, which is going to reverse the sign. So this x here, I'm going to take its negative. This 4, I'm going to take its positive. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put these factors together. And again, don't forget your original. That's a really easy thing to do, to mess up with. And it's 4. All right, like this, right? Good. Hold on, there is something wrong here. What's wrong? Yeah, there you go. There's 2x minus 4. Now, don't forget, these two things right here are actually the same thing. They're not different. I mean, I know it looks like there's 2 of them, but if we do a quick power check, 4, right? We should have 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got an extra one. So that last one shouldn't be there. So again, that's another thing that happens. Some people forget the numbers, but some people accidentally put more of them in, which, we don't want extra solutions. We should only have 4 solutions, not 5. All right, so now we can see that there's a 2 here, which means there's 2 solutions hiding here. So we got to break it apart. Well, there's 2 things we can do in this case here. We can make this into a fraction, or we could, you know what? I'm going to stick with what we would normally do, and that would be to break it into a difference in squares. Now, I know some students can skip this next step. Usually, like if I'm doing this, I usually skip the next step. But all I'm going to do, and sometimes it does get a little bit tedious, right? Where I'm going to be writing a lot of this, and it's just the same thing over and over again. I usually don't like writing stuff over and over again if I can help it. All right, because I had to write like half of the stuff the same and change the other half. But sometimes it'd be like that, and I don't want to be skipping steps and making anybody get lost. But there you go. So now we have all of the x's solved, right? The x's are mostly by themselves. We just need to take it out of the factor bubbles. So let's go ahead and take them out and look for what would be the lowest number here. So leave the positives alone. So it's going to be these 2 here. So hopefully you all know what 1/3 is, right? Because if I ask most people, like in this case here, which one's bigger, 1/3 or 4? Right? Everyone should know that. Well, I guess if you're lost, you can also just use a calculator and it would be 0.333. But there you go, 4 degree, 4 solutions. So everything's there. Again, don't be picking up extra solutions or missing out on some of the solutions because it's easy to forget them, leave them off, or do something that will make extras appear. But there you go. We got another one done and solved for. All right, and let's go ahead and get to the next one. All right, and I don't think, well, maybe check the powers. 4, 3, 2, 1. And remember, if it has nothing, no power, well, it's not a no power, it's a 1 power because there's a hidden 1 right there. And just like the first one, right? And we caught that one, that the last one is missing the last number. I think it was like problem number 2. One of the ones we worked on before is missing a last power. All right, let's go ahead and get this here. So negative 15. Wait, what am I talking about? I'm a step ahead. I'm a step ahead right here. So this should have been negative 15 because the first one just goes down. We don't need to change anything. And then multiply that by the number in the window, put it in the next column. Negative 10 would be 50. 50 minus 42 would be 8, and negative 40, which would leave us with 0, which is good. Okay, but we're not quite done yet, right? Because we've got to get to that last spot. We got to get to the negative. So negative 5 times 80. 80? What am I talking about? Getting a little bit of the fatigue setting in. It's 6th hour. Just a few more minutes so we get to go home. All right, but let's put these x's back on because that will give us the clue as to what we should do next. So like that. No, what's missing? Yeah, we're missing an x on this last one right here. So 3, 2, 1. Now the no power is a 0, so we're going to leave that off. And again, this helps us tell what we should have here. Darn it. Hello? Yeah. Check it. Okay. Yeah. All right, where was we? Oh yeah, so they should all have an x. So uh all the tricks, right? We use life method, we use AC method, we use difference in squares. Now we're going to use GCF factoring. GCF factoring would be where you take something from the entire group, right? So I have a group of 3. They all have at least one x. I'm going to take an x away from all of them. And if you kind of noticed, like, oh, we're always getting ABC trinomials, right? ABCs, three-term trinomials. That's kind of what you're doing. At some point, you are going to use life method on most of these. So yeah, it's kind of one of the pathways that you're always going to get. So let's go ahead and multiply. I'm going to use AC method. I'm going to do this off to the side just to make it go a little bit faster. Here, so let's go ahead and factor this out. And again, I'm going to have to do a little bit of writing over the same thing over again. But I do want to break this down. If you want to, some people are pretty good at this. They can do this without having to do the whole thing off to the side. But again, I just don't want to write this whole stuff over and over again. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to 24. But if I add those same numbers, I get negative 10. Which means they're both negative, right? Because it's the only way to add a number to get a negative number is if they're both negative. Well, I mean, like they got to be smaller than 10 is what I'm saying. But what numbers could that be? All right, and you can kind of ignore the negative, right? Just pretend like it's like 10, regular 10, right? 4 and 6 multiply to 24, but if I put them together, they become 10. But again, since they're both negative, they add up to negative 10. And now we're going to have to take that number back. And if you remember what I did on the last slide here, where I kind of moved this around right here, right? I'm gonna kind of make that a little bit smoother. So now I'm not having to move that number in front of the x here. And that's all I'm doing here. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. And there you go. So we got them all separated. We got 4 degree, 4 factors. Now we should have 4 solutions. And by the way, sometimes you get double solutions, like you might get like 5 and then 5 again. So yeah, sometimes you might end up with less solutions, but we talked about multiplicity already. So yeah, just because something, 4 degree doesn't mean you're always going to get 4 different solutions. And actually, this one's a little bit of a weird one. I did not mean for it to turn out this way, but I just kind of realized they all came out in order. So -5. Oh yeah, and don't forget, if an x is by itself, it becomes 0, because it's like saying x plus 0 or x minus 0, right? It's just going to stay 0. And 4/3 on the calculator is 1.3333. So that would definitely be less than 2. So, all right, we got them all sorted out. We just got one more to go, and then we'll be done for today. Okay. Got it? One good? All right. Moving on to the last one now. Let's see. 3 here. Because again, take it out. It's going to be opposite. Now we got 5. We're looking for 5 different things. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So make sure they're all there. Now, kind of a side story here. When I was in college, there was a textbook that we used, and they would mix these numbers up. So like they'd be all out of order. And you'd have the extra step of putting them in order. I don't think this book does that. But it's one of those things just out of my own habits, I got to look for as well. Because you never know, they might pull a cheap trick on you and have you, do that. Again, I don't think this book does that. But you never know. You might be finding yourself in college a couple years from now or next year or whatever, thinking to yourself, man, how do make sure you get those good habits for factoring this stuff out. All right, so it looks like we got no remainder, but we also got quite a lot of zeros. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put the x's back on, and then we're gonna see what we can do with this. So it's a 5 power. Now it's a 4 power. We're gonna leave that out because we don't really need it, because it's a 4, 3, 2. So this 13 is a 2 power. This 0 is a 1 power. And our last one is going to be a 9. So what kind of factoring can we do with this one? Okay, well, we do have a number in the front, so that tells us we're going to have to use AC method. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, if the power goes down by the same amount, so down by 2, 4, 2, 0, then you can use AC method or you can use life method. You could probably skip this next step if you want to here. I'm just going to go ahead and go do the AC method. 4 times 9 is 36. And I'm just going to go ahead and break this down right now. So I know I have two numbers that multiply to 36, but they combine to -13, which again, that tells me they're both going to be negative. And if you forget how to get numbers, because if you're sitting here thinking, okay, what number can I multiply to 36, but they add to 13? Well, don't forget, you can also use a factor list. So 1 times 13, start with the smallest number you can think of. And then 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9. And there is 6 times 6, but actually I think we found what we're looking for. Because 4 and 9, if you add them together, gives you 13. So 4 and 9. But be careful. I'm going to write it small because I have to divide by 4. Okay, got to divide by 4. Now this doesn't quite factor it all the way down. Oops, out of the way there. Because we still have some more stuff to do. And again, let's take this original, and I'm gonna put that one first. Again, don't forget the original. That's a really easy way to lose points there. And I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to say 4 over 4 is going to be 1 x squared minus 9 over 4. There you go. And again, you can do this a different way of factoring, where sometimes if you're factoring, you want to put a number in front of the x, but since we're trying to solve it, I'm going to try to keep the x's and the other things separate. All right, now we have 2 solutions in this bubble and 2 solutions in this bubble. So that should be, plus this last one, equal to 5. So we should have, again, 5-degree polynomial means we should have 5 solutions. So one of their favorite tricks they like to play is difference in squares. Now this first one here is a pretty easy one, right? You got to split the x, and then we unsquare the second number. All right, I call it unsquare because you can't take the square root of a negative. Because if I said, okay, take the square root of -1, no, you shouldn't be able to do that. But kind of just to get around it, get around that rule, we're gonna divide by. I call it unsquare. It's not a real thing. It's something I made up. But let's go ahead and do the same thing with this one here, 9 over 4, and I'm gonna, in a way, just take the square root, just pretend that I can do it. All right. Feeling extra magical today, Victor. Like I can make anything poof. A oopsie, forgot that one's going to be a difference of squares. There you go. So that one's actually going to break down into those two there. There you go. So again, we just kind of take the square root of the top and the bottom. And there you go. So now I got 5 here, 5 factors. Now we just got to put them all in order. All right, now let's see. What would be our lowest number? It looks like we got a 1 and a -1. Oh, and don't forget, they're going to be opposites. So actually, the lowest one would be from this group here. So that'd be negative, because when you take it out, it's going to flip. Next one is going to be this one again. It's a +1, but now it is a -1. And this is going to be a +3, 2, because again, it's going to be, well, actually, it's going to be from this one. And let's go ahead and add 3 to both of them. All right, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 solutions. Everything all worked out. Whew. So again, just remember all your tricks of factoring. Remember, you got all different kinds of factorings. You got GCF, you got life method, AC method, factor by grouping, difference in squares. There's actually a few other ones too. I think later on in one of these lessons, there's going to be one that's going to be a difference in cubes. And for that one, you're going to think all the way back to like August or September. I know we did one a long time ago. All right, so I think that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and check for questions and see if we need to go back for any of the other ones. I know.